Hey there. Will Terry here, and in this video entitled Artists Rise Up, I'm going to talk about something that I think is super important. Obviously, I think it's super important. I think all my videos are important. Um, Before I get to the topic today, I just want to remind you that I have links below here if you ever want to get a hold of me, if you ever want to connect with me on Facebook. I use my personal account. Just send me a friend request on Facebook. I'm just Will Terry on there. I don't use my Will Terry illustration page anymore because I don't like the business pages. They hide most of your friends from you. They do that on the personal one too, but I just want to manage one Facebook account. So my Twitter, you can go to my blog and get my Twitter. Is WillTerry333. So anyway, yeah. So this week, a lot of you may know that I'm making a game with an indie team for Xbox, PlayStation, Steam, probably Wii U, PS Vita, and our release date is January 26th of 2015. So it's coming up in about 6 months. We've got to get this game finished, and it is super fun. I'm going to be talking about that tonight in this video, and I'm also going to be talking about some other things that I think are really important for you as an artist if you're wanting to become successful. I mean, that's what my channel is mostly about. But I was talking to my son, my 20-year-old son, Aaron, who works with me and who is actually working on the game, developing in Unity, along with our lead developer, Dilmer, who I'm going to talk about a little bit later in this video. But we were talking about things that are being replaced by new things on the internet. So, for instance, as we're building this game, we're thinking about going to different conferences. And one of the conferences on our radar is E3. And Aaron said, you know, the talk in the gaming community is that E3 probably will go to an online only venue, that the conference itself will probably evaporate, simply because everybody's getting their game reviews on YouTube, and you just simply don't need to travel. You know, the internet. I mean, the first thing people do when they want to check out new games is they get on YouTube and they see what's coming out. They subscribe to a gaming channel, and they know what's all the new games that are coming out. They don't need to go to conferences as much anymore. E3 magazine will probably disappear. When I first started out, I first started illustrating. I grew up in the Washington D.C. area, and one of the magazines or one of the newspapers that I actually delivered as a child or teenager was the Washington Post. And I was a paper boy, and I delivered the Washington Post to people in my neighborhood. And I ended up working. That was I think my second or third job was from the Washington Post when I first started back in 1993. I went into the city and showed my portfolio and got a few jobs working for the Washington Post, and ended up doing about 30 or 40 jobs for them over the next 5 years. If Carol Porter's watching, thank you so much for giving me my start. Um, but I'm afraid that Carol is probably not even working there anymore, because that newspaper is just a fraction of what it was. In fact, newspapers and magazines have all but been obliterated. I know a handful of editorial cartoonists that had thriving careers working for major newspapers, and they've had to switch and go into something completely different. I know one of them is actually has switched over and is doing quite well in children's books right now. But it's amazing how many things and how fast things change. Magazines, that's where I got my start. Almost every magazine that I used to work for is gone now. I mean, we just don't need magazines anymore. We get our information in a different way. We get it online. And this is nothing, I'm not telling you anything new. I know you already know this, but I think it's important for the message that I want to deliver in this video. Because I'm constantly being asked by people on the internet that see these videos, or people that come to my blog, or people that contact me on Twitter or Facebook, um, or uh, they'll send me an email for and want to know about our classes online, and they ask me questions. Do I think they can make it as an illustrator? Which is not really a good question, because there's way too many variables. But um, the thing is that everything has pretty much just been flipped on its head. Uh, just tonight on Facebook, I posted a picture of a Blockbuster. I don't know where it is, but it's been going around the internet, where it's all overgrown with trees, and it just seems like just a few short years ago, that's how we got our videos. Now we stream them on Amazon or from Vudu, and it's just amazing how fast things change. And another thing I want to do is apologize for the quality of my videos. A few people, in fact, I even went out and bought one of these here snowballs, and I haven't even hooked it up yet, because it's gonna mean this is a microphone, a higher quality one. But the thing is, I am so busy with work that I don't want to have to edit these videos. So I like making them, and they're fun for me to make. But I do one takes, and then I just upload them to YouTube, because if I had to take time to edit them, I probably wouldn't make them. So for those who have said things about the quality, I do apologize. It's just a webcam. It's my webcam mic. And I do want to make them better, like some guys out there really spend a lot of time polishing and putting front and back ends on them. I just don't have the time with my workload right now. So you're going to get what you're going to get. And so one thing you're going to get is I'm actually going to grab the webcam here and show you some things that are on my Cintiq monitor right now, because I want to talk about these. So what you're seeing there, that book cover, this English Travels right here. This was a book cover that I did for a textbook. This is actually, you can see this little animation here. This is a chili pepper for the game that we're working on, the Xbox game. But this thing right here, I used to do these kind of book covers all the time, and I would regularly get paid $3,000 to $4,000 to do a textbook cover in the educational market. Okay, and I'm getting asked to do these now every now and then, and they're asking me to do it for $1,000 or for $1,500 instead. So the prices have been heading south on those, and I could spend a lot of time telling you about projects like that where they just aren't paying as much as they used to. Now I'm not going to make this a downer video, but I just wanted to kind of talk about these kinds of things, and I had a few other things here. Let's see here. This is actually another piece that's going to be in our game. So, because I'm going to be talking about that tonight. So this is a piece that I'm working on right now. It's in Photoshop there. Anyway, I might have to go back to that. Oops, here we go. So things are changing. Things aren't the way they used to be. People are asking me, can I still make it? My thinking is, right now, things have changed so much, and opportunities have vanished, but new opportunities have emerged. And I know if you've watched my videos, if you've seen, I've talked about this before, but I want to go a little bit more in depth tonight and talk about what I think you should be doing. Some people come from all different walks of life. Some people want to go into animation. Some people want to go into children's books right away. Their goal is, if I can just illustrate children's books, if I could just animate for a major motion picture or for a game, if I could just do this, that, or the other, I'll be happy. And the interesting thing is, you can attain what you want, but I will guarantee you that once you get there, you will look back and go, I can't believe I'm here. And I also can't believe I'm not as happy as I thought I would be. Because that's not really where happiness comes from. I think happiness goes way beyond that. And I think that if you're an artist and you're constantly searching, you're always going to want a different challenge. And once you attain something, you're going to be looking for the next thing. And if you talk to illustrators or animators that work at Disney, that work at Pixar, that work somewhere else, you will find, if you can get them to actually, one-on-one and tell you things, they'll tell you, you know what, it has become a job, a job, that dirty word, it has become that thing that I never really thought it would become. I'm not saying at all that it's bad to work in those places at all. Um, and, and there are some people that are super happy there. I know I've talked about this before. But you are working for someone else and you are getting told what to do. And sometimes your dream and your vision is going to get squashed when you work there. And the same goes for me when I work for when I do a children's book for a publisher. Um, there are times where I'll have an idea and it'll get squashed. And I was actually talking to an illustrator, a very, if you know illustration, there's a guy who emailed me this morning, and who is the top of the top, but he's getting into children's books more and more now. He's been doing other things, and we were talking back and forth about he has an editor that is telling him that he's got to make all these changes that are really frustrating to him because um, he's got his vision and they've got a completely different vision. And if I don't want to use this guy's name because I don't have permission and I don't want to, it wouldn't be right for me to do that. But if you saw his work and if you knew who it was, you would know why. His work is so polished and so well crafted. And the frustrating thing for him has got to be that he's a master craftsman. He is beyond good. He's beyond excellent. His work is freaking amazing. And he's getting told what to do by people who can't hold a candle to what he does. And that's not to say that they're wrong, that his editors are wrong in what they're asking him to do. But there is that frustrating kind of clash between artist and an editor, or artist and creative director, or project manager, or whoever's in charge, where your visions don't line up. And as an artist, it is quite frustrating to have to make changes. And if you don't agree with those changes and you see that the changes actually diminish the product, then you lose the enthusiasm for the work, and it can really affect your emotional side. It can really put you in a downer state because you don't want to have to if especially if it offends your senses and you just know that yours was better, then you've kind of just gotten crapped on, and you have to try to figure out how to deal with that and where to put it. I know some of you are probably thinking, well, that's a problem that I would like to have because I would like to get paid and all that, but I want to go further than that. I want to go beyond that. There are people who want to work in animation, people who want to work in children's books, like I was saying before, people who want to work as an artist to pay the bills. That may or may not always be possible. I think it used to be more possible when editorial markets were healthy. I think it used to be more possible when there were fewer artists, before we were working in a global economy. But now you've got these people. Another thing that people ask me all the time, we've got these job sites where people post a job and everybody bids on it. And basically, what is it? It's a race to the bottom. It's a race to see who can actually do it and charge the least amount of money that is, I guess, a fairly competent artist at the same time. And the problem with that is you don't want to get involved in that race because you actually might win. And if you win that race, then you end up doing something that is you're not getting compensated for, that is going to be one of the worst jobs you've ever done because those people do not respect you as an artist. I'm not against those sites. How do I say this? I'm not 100% against working for those sites. There's experience to be gained, and sometimes the crappiest job that you get can, in an ironic way, actually help you. And one of the things that I've been encouraging my son to do, as he's been learning how to develop children's story apps, which he's been doing, as he's been learning to work on this game, is to take on assignments for smaller amounts of money. And some of the clients that he'll have will demand more than others. Some of the clients that he has probably won't be prepared. Some of the clients that he has will probably change the assignment and add scope creep, which we talked about in other videos as well. But all those experiences are really good for learning. But The other thing that I want to interject is your dream as an artist, or creating something as an artist, doesn't have to start with earning money as an artist. You can work on your own time and perfect your craft while you're working another job, and probably a lot of you are already doing that. Um, I'm going to tell you a really quick story about a student that I had who had a decent job at a box store, and he was an assistant manager, and he said, well, I want to quit there and I want to get a job as a graphic designer so I can have like a foot in the door in the creative world. And I said, well, do you hate your job as an assistant manager? He says, no. And I said, well, if you want to be an illustrator, but if you take on a job as a graphic designer, what you'll do is you will spend all of your creative gas tank at your job, and then you'll come home and you will not feel like drawing. You only have so much creativity in you in a day. It's not like you can be creative. You can paint. There's a difference between creating and rendering and crafting. You can get a painting where you're noodling on it and you're not really thinking a whole lot. You're not really spending a lot of creative energy. But drawing and concepting, that's emotional labor. And if you're doing that at work, you're not going to have time for it at home. So I said, well, if you don't hate your job, for me, knowing what I know now, I would I would keep the job and work on art in your spare time. Because then when you get home, you're going to be really excited to do something completely different than you did at work. Um, and then he later got promoted to assistant manager at the store, and he makes a lot more money. I think he's happy. I haven't talked to him since he left school, but I'll bet that he's a lot happier making that extra money, and he can still do his art on the side. I think that's a really good way to do it. Um, I think that's a good option for a lot of people. I think that a lot of people that go the route of feeling like, well, I have to make money to support myself at art end up really frustrated because they end up taking jobs that they really shouldn't take. One of the arguments that you'll hear if you go to art school or a university that's got a fine art program and illustration program is usually the fine art program and the illustration program are at loggerheads, and they hate each other. And the reason they hate each other is because the fine artists say, uh, you illustrators over there are whores. You're not being true to yourself. You're not making art for yourself. You're doing it for money, and that corrupts the art. And the illustrators say to the fine artists, you're full of baloney and hot air, and just leave us alone. At least we're making money. And they don't really, neither side really understands the other. There's a little bit of truth to both. And I think when I was in school as an illustrator, I kind of got dug in my heels in the illustration camp, and was one of those that said, fine artists, you're full of baloney. They're not. They make a good argument, and illustration is a good gig, but at the same time, you will hit on those assignments where you cannot make a piece of art. The final product will not be art because the person in control or in charge, the editor, the art director, the creative director, whoever it is going to make bad decisions with your art. They're going to ask you to make bad decisions to where you're going to lose the enthusiasm, and when you don't love what you're doing, it's not art. And that's going to happen as an illustrator. Now the fine artists are going to suffer because if they do something that people like and start buying, then they become slaves to that style. So both have their downside. There's downsides to both. There's upsides to both. Um, but anyway, so I guess that's why I say working a job that's not art related so that you can spend your time on your art actually makes a lot more sense to me now than it did in the past. And knowing that markets are really suffering in a lot of ways, that's something that makes even more sense to me. The title of the video is Artists Rise Up. And what I mean by that is we live in a day and age right now where technology has collided with art, where you have the ability now to do things that you didn't have the ability to do before. Um, Artists now are reaching audiences online like never before. So, examples. Um, you can, if artists that are that want to make films can produce their own shows and are making tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars with their channels on YouTube. I could list a ton of them, but I'm sure you already know a lot of them. A lot of them are humor channels, but there's a lot of content being made for YouTube that um, is instructional. There's a lot of content being made that's even dramatic, where people are making a lot of money. A friend of mine has a channel, Kid History, where they're getting ready to actually probably sell that channel to a big company because it's worked its way up in the world. Um, and so that's an opportunity. There are opportunities like for us with with our online teaching at SBS and Folio Academy. There's no way we could have done that 10 years ago, but technology has caught up to us now. If you have a computer, which you probably do, you're probably watching me on the computer, you can now access animation tools and digital sculpting tools that you used to have to work for a studio to be able to afford to get on to something like that. And now you can have Maya, you can have ZBrush, you can have Photoshop, you can do all sorts of things on your computer. And if you're young and you're watching this, you need to realize one of the hardest things for you to realize is you grew up in this environment, you grew up in this world where you had access to these things. So to you, it's probably you probably take it for granted. I'm not trying to make you feel bad by saying that, but you've got to understand that if someone wanted to make a cartoon 10 or 20 years ago, they had to go and work for a major studio. Now you can make it on your own. If someone wanted to make a game, good luck. You have to work for a major studio. So the options right now, if you want to make a book, if you want to make an app, if you want to make like my partner Jake Parker makes his own comic books and sells amazingly well. He makes a lot of money on his prints. He does really, really well. And those are just things that he's just making in his spare time. He doodles, he draws, he'll make a book out of it, and then he'll go to conferences and sell those things. Um, so now the opportunities are endless and they're out there. And so that's why I wanted to talk a little bit about how to prepare yourself for that, and how to actually go forward and be successful with something like that. So the first thing that I want to talk about is actually perfecting your craft in some way, okay? And let's talk about effort a little bit, okay? And I should have been prepared with this, but I was going to show you one of my old pictures that I did when I was in college, but it was horrible. The stuff that I have behind me is it's the best stuff that I've done, and the reason I've got it behind me is because I want to impress you, you know. But in the past, where I started, and I've talked about this a lot of times, I was on probation in my college program because I just didn't get it. And out of 20 kids, there were 2 of us that were put on probation. One of them was me. Um, my work just wasn't good enough, and they almost kicked me out of my college program. And they gave me 1 semester to kind of work hard and prove myself, and luckily I did. But you know, I was never ever the best in my junior high. There was always better artists in the art class when I was in junior high. There were always better artists in high school, and when I went to college, there was tons of guys that were better than me there. Um, and but I worked my way up. I used to say that I wish that I could play the guitar. In fact, one time when I think I was probably 14 or 15, I asked my parents for a guitar for Christmas. And you know what? I never learned how to play the guitar. I thought just by owning it, you know, just by having it, that I would somehow, through osmosis or something, learn how to play it. And I've caught myself throughout the years saying, "Oh, I wish I knew how to play the guitar. You know, that would be really fun." No, I didn't wish I could play the guitar. I never did, because if I had, I would have acted on it. Um, Saying that you wish you could do something is kind of foolish and kind of silly. I wish I could be a professional artist. You can be. I wish I could do that. The thing that you need to ask yourself is, am I willing to do what it takes? I wasn't with the guitar. And if I would have been honest with myself, I would have said, It would be nice if I wanted to do the work that it takes to learn how to play the guitar, but I'm not willing because I don't want to learn how to play the guitar that bad. I just don't care. I wanted to be an illustrator, and so I worked my butt off. And there were a lot of times, there were a lot of tears. I've talked about this before. There was a lot of frustration. There was a lot of trying to talk myself into uh, this is a really good painting that I've just done. And then I'd show my wife. I got married when I was 22, so I've been married now for, oh, my wife's going to kill me, 20, 24 years, 25. We're coming up on our 25th. Oh my gosh. Um, my wife doesn't watch these videos. I'm going to be fine. Don't tell her. But I just didn't care. But I did care about becoming an illustrator. I'd ask my wife, what do you think of this? She'd say, well, I think you've done better. And I would get so frustrated because I just wanted her to tell me how good it was, you know. And she was just being honest. And I probably didn't thank her enough for being honest and telling me exactly what she thought about it. But that's what I really needed. I needed really good feedback, and I needed people to tell me. And the thing that I really needed the most was to be frustrated enough and to be sick and tired enough of the stuff that I was doing to say, okay, this kind of sucks. What do I need to do to make it not suck? You know? And I started looking at other people's work and comparing it to mine. You can't compare your work to professionals enough. You need to take your work and get on the computer and put your work side by side with a professional piece of art. And you need to go down through it and make a list. Excuse me. What is working with their artwork and what's not working with yours? Why is there, and analyze it 6 ways to Sunday. Analyze it for line quality. Analyze it for color. Analyze it for texture. Analyze it for composition. Analyze it for the value patterning. Analyze it for focal point. Analyze it for every single thing that you can think of. If you don't know all those, this is going to be a shameless plug, but I made a video. It's called Creative Composition. It's on svslearn.com. You can get it there. People ask me all the time, what do I do to take it to the next level? Have you checked out my videos? That if I were your teacher, that's exactly what I would tell you, because that's what we did in our class. We had a live class. That's what we tell people. People say, where do I start? You got a lot of videos. You've got a lot of classes. Where do I start? Start with drawing and composition. If you can't draw and you can't compose an image, don't worry about painting. Painting is the last thing. Color is the last thing. But I would look at my images, and that's what I did over time. What do I need to do to take it to the next level? And I would blatantly copy things from other people and say, okay, they're doing this right. I'm not going to copy the whole image, but I'm going to borrow something that they're doing right. And after a while, if you do that enough, it just kind of assimilates into your own style, and it'll just kind of get absorbed. And the thing you don't want to do, you don't want to just have someone's artwork sitting there as you're painting and just copying the whole thing the whole time. You want to look at it, get inspired, get some ideas in your head, and then try something. Then compare it and see how you did. Okay, so there's that. There's the effort required, and the effort level that you put in will get better and better over time if you're committed. If you constantly look at your work and go, I'm not going to be satisfied with this, it can be better. And if you can become that person, I never started out as a perfectionist. The longest I could ever work on a piece of art was about 2 hours when I was in school. And I would just get frustrated, and I was like, I'm just done. I'm done. And now I can work on a piece of art for days. In fact, I'm going to give you a sneak preview at a piece that I just finished that I'm going to probably, maybe, I'm trying to decide whether to make prints out of this or not. So I'm going to show you this again. This video is going to run a little bit longer than some of my other ones, but let's just grab this. Let's move this out of the way here. Okay, so this piece right here Let's see if you can see that there. This is going to be like a poster or a print, and it's a reading theme, so you can see the little fox there, and he's reading to all the other animals in the forest. And there's no way. I've got the cursor right in front of it there. There's no way that I could have done an image like this, uh, even 10 years ago. There's no way I could. Even 5 years ago, this would have been hard. I'm just starting to learn how to really compose an image and maintain a focal point, you know. Um, and if you like that one and you think you might want to print, another shameless plug, hey, that's what it's about, right? Uh, Tune into my blog at willterry.blogspot.com, and if I do decide to do that, then it'll be there. It might make a good Christmas gift or a gift for a teacher or something like that. But that's an image that I couldn't have done before, and it came from being frustrated, looking at other people's artwork and going, why can they do it and I can't? Talking to other illustrators, teaching people. If you teach people how to do something, guess what? You get nervous before you start to teach it, and you start to really scramble and find out how to teach it by talking to other people. So it kind of forces you to do better. It also, you don't want to get called on the fact that you don't want a question coming in that you can't answer. So real quick, you ramp up. So if you can mentor or teach other people, that will actually help you level up a lot quicker. Let me show you another guy's artwork here. I meant to show you this before, but this is a guy. His name is Michael Dowdle, and that's not him right there. This is him over here. There he is right there. But he does these. He came up with this idea. He likes to do folk art, right? So he does this kind of folk art style right here, and he got the idea to do puzzles of cities, and you've probably seen these before. And so, just on his own, he decided, well, I'll make a painting, and then I'll have it printed up and have it turned into a puzzle. And he started doing cities. So this here is Santa Monica, and he just started. It's a great idea. He started making these city puzzles in a folk art style, and then what he does is he markets them to that area. So all the gift shops in Santa Monica probably carry this 1,000-piece puzzle right now. And I think he's done almost every major city. He's now starting to do other things, like he's doing ball fields and stuff. I don't know if I can see one of those on here, but I mean just any here we go, Washington Huskies. So now he's doing that. This was just an idea that he did on his own, and he started this company, and guess what? He makes millions of dollars doing this now. So this is an idea that anybody could have had, but he had it, and he acted on it. He did it, and now he's one of those artists that I really look up to in a lot of ways, because he had an idea and he went for it, and he didn't settle on being an illustrator for someone else. He thought he had an idea, and he thought that he could actually make some good money off of it. Now, I hope I don't sound like I'm a. Well, I've lost my. Where do I want to go next? I know I wanted to show you something else. Oh, maybe I didn't. I don't want to sound like money is my religion, because it's not, or money is everything, because it's not. And having a quality of life is definitely most important. But as an artist, the thing is, you don't know what the future holds. So if you have a good idea, it's really important to try to maximize on the amount of money that you can make, because you don't know if you're going to go through a drought. Like with Michael there, he might his puzzles might be selling really well now, but maybe people get tired of him in the future. So he makes all this money now, and if he's good with his money and invests it and saves it and everything and pays cash for his house and makes sure he keeps his bills low, he could retire, And that's really, I think, the dream for everybody, is to be able to, even if you want to live in a small house like I do. I do not aspire to live in a big, huge house. I think that's a silly game to play. But I do aspire to have the freedom to travel and to spend time doing the kinds of things that I want to do. And that's one of the reasons why I've been very entrepreneurial. And that's one of the reasons why I started SVS. And back to that, I'm going to go back to the effort thing. The reason that I think it's really important for you to become not the best at what you do, but one of the best, or a really good illustrator at your style or at a particular style, is because then it allows you to have the kind of value that you carry with you wherever you go in your portfolio, to where if you talk to someone, okay, this is kind of the second part that I'm getting to now, even though we're 35 minutes in. If you carry this kind of value with you, and you talk to a programmer, or you talk to an entrepreneur, you talk to a business guy, you talk to somebody who has an idea, and you say, look, what do I bring to the table? I'm an illustrator, and you should check out my work. And when they Google you, or when they check out that link and they're really impressed, then they go, yeah, we got to have that person on our team. So when I approached Jake Parker is up there in the world of comic books and in children's publishing. I mean, the guy worked at Blue Sky. When he goes to a conference, people know who he is. They come to see him. They buy his prints. He's kind of a big shot. He's a big shot. And the only reason that he partnered with me to do SVS is because he saw what I could do, and he saw how I could teach. And the only reason I wanted to partner with him is because I saw what he could do, and I saw that he was teaching, and I could tell when I talked to him that he knew how to explain concepts. And I thought, this will probably work. This will probably be a good option for us. And it's worked out great. And we have a lot of plans. We have more classes planned for next year. But the idea is you won't be able to partner with anybody if you don't bring something to the table. So the first priority, number one, is get your portfolio as high as it can be. Now you can't just say, well, next year I'll be ready, because it's a lifelong pursuit. But what you can do is constantly not settle, and constantly be working on improvement. Okay, so let me get to the game that we're working on, and I'm going to show you a screenshot of that as I talk about it here. So let me pull that up real quick. We're about I guess we're about 4 or 5 months into working on this, and this is kind of a little screenshot of the game right here. This is just one part of it, and this is our little hero right here. His name is Super Stick. He carries he's a security guard, and it's a side-scrolling platformer. It's going to be, like I said, it's going to be out on the PlayStation and Xbox next year. But the way this came about is that this guy named Dilmer, and Dilmer, I hope you're getting a chance to watch this, because I'm going to say some nice things about you. You should make sure your wife hears this. Okay. Oh, sorry about that. So Dilmer is the lead programmer, and Dilmer has a really good job as a programmer right now. He's in charge of a bunch of other programmers at his work. I'm not going to mention where he works, but he's an entrepreneur also, and he's got a bunch of apps on the App Store that he's made on his own that bring in a really decent income every month. And I'll tell you a little bit about him. He's from Venezuela, and he was an immigrant here when he was about 10 years old, and he and his family worked really hard. They had to take a lot of the jobs that you and I probably wouldn't want to have. I'll tell you about myself. I worked at McDonald's for 2 years. I worked at Pizza Hut. I worked as a short order cook at a drugstore. I worked as a paper boy. And so, but Dilmer had some of those really entry level bad jobs too, and he had to work as a young kid. And it taught him. I think it taught him humility. It certainly taught me humility when I was working at McDonald's. You just don't really have a whole lot of pride when you're working in those jobs, and I think it really teaches you to work harder It teaches you that you don't want to do that for the rest of your life. And I think Dilmer was very ambitious coming to this country. He talked to me a little bit about it, but he basically decided that he did not want to do anything like that for the rest of his life. So he worked really hard on learning math, and when he went to school, uh, did extremely well in math. And then he didn't have the money to go and finish the degree that he wanted to finish in programming. So he learned programming on his own, and he worked really hard on it. And that's one of the cool things too now is you can get a lot of education online. You don't have to do the formal education thing if you can't afford it. But he learned how to program, and then he actually went and had a test done. Well, he went to go get a job, his first job programming, and he didn't have a degree, and so they didn't want to hire him. But he said, why don't you guys have your programmers ask me any questions that you want and give me a test, and if I can answer their questions, then maybe that'll work. And so he did. Their programmers said, yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about. They hired him, and then from there he got this. Like I said, he's got this other really good job right now where he's actually the lead programmer, and he did all that through his hard work. He was looking to make an indie game, to make an Xbox game, and wanted to put together a team. I have been working on story apps and different various projects like that with a bunch of different programmers over the last 4 or 5 years, and for various reasons. One of the hardest things to do is to find a programmer that's entrepreneurial. Most programmers are content to work their hourly shift, make their money, go home, they make decent money, and then assimilate back into regular life. Dilmer is not. He's one of a kind. He's probably 1 out of 500, where he wants to come home and work, and he sees a better life for him and his wife and their new baby, and he wants to make some good money, and he knows he's not going to do that at his job because a job is going to pay you enough to get by, and it's enough to pay your rent, enough to pay your utilities and your food bills. But in the end of the day, without the job, you die, right? It's that game where you trade time for money, and you do it until you are 60 or 65, and then you retire, and you're too old to really be able to enjoy the retirement money. And it's a game that a lot of us have played. If you haven't read the 4 Hour Work Week, you should do that. It's actually, someone put it up on YouTube, so you can get it right here on YouTube. And just just YouTube 4 Hour Work Week and listen to that guy talk. It'll change your mind. It'll blow your mind. But anyway, so Dilmer was looking for a guy. He called a friend of mine and asked him, "Hey, would you want to work on this game?" And he didn't want to do it because for whatever reason. But he said, "You want to talk to this guy, my friend Will Terry." So he ended up calling me. We talked. I interviewed him. I said, "Dilmer, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have time to kind of, go down the road of making a game. Making a game, making all the art for the game is going to be a big, daunting task. And I don't have time to go 40% of the way or 60% of the way or 90% of the way and not get it done. If I agree to do this, I'm going to go all the way. And you're not going to have to worry about me getting my stuff done. And I need to get that same kind of guarantee from you." And that's when he told me his whole life story. And to be honest with you, I actually trust immigrants to this country more than I do people like me, because I still believe in the American dream, and I think that someone who has immigrated to this country probably sees more opportunity there than a lot of us do. And I hope I don't offend anybody by saying that, but I'm talking in generalities. And I would say when I found out that Dilmer had immigrated to this country, I was way more excited because I felt like, here's a guy who's serious. You see it all the time. I used to live in the Central Valley in California, and you see how hard the immigrants work in the fields and stuff out there. They work harder than I ever have in my whole life. I feel like I've worked hard. Those guys work really hard. Now the difference is, can they break out of those kinds of jobs out in the fields? In fact, I know I'm just rambling tonight. I'm just going to keep going. Hopefully you're painting on a painting. When we lived out there, one of my sons and his friend wanted to get a job out in the field working with they were mostly Mexican people. And their thought was they wanted to see what it was like, and they wanted to work hard, and they thought that having a job where they were working on their feet, they were playing football, and they thought in the off season it would help them stay more fit than working at a job where they were sitting or not being active. And they went out to talk to the guy who hires, and the guy said, well, number one, I'll never hire you. Just flat out, I'm not going to hire you, because there would be some conflicts with the fact that the Hispanic people out there in the field will think they won't understand why you're working here. So that's number one. And you actually might get hurt because they might feel like you're trying to take their job away or something crazy like that. But to be honest with you, the biggest reason why I won't hire you is because you simply won't work as hard as they do. You just flat out won't. And don't tell me you will, because you won't. We've tried it before, and none of you white kids ever work as hard as these Hispanic kids. Um, so I was very excited to be able to work with Dilmer, and he is very capable. When we started talking, it was very evident he had done so much work before he ever contacted me. He had a lot of our forms. He had been working back and forth with Xbox and with PlayStation, getting all the registrations and everything in line. It is a daunting process, and he had been working with them for months. Um, and so when I came on, he had already built levels in the game, and things were already moving along quite well. I needed someone to actually work on the sprite sheets, because I'm not an animator, and I don't know how to. I'm not good with animation. I'm learning, but I'm not an expert in animation. I'm a trained illustrator. So I had a student at UVU. The one student last year that dropped out of my class is the one student that I hired this year to work on this game. And the reason for that was because the one student that dropped out because he was too busy with his own illustration projects, because he's really good. He's a hard worker. I could see it right away. And when I saw him leaving school, I asked him why, and he's like, "I'm just too busy." Well, that's what happened to me. That's the reason why I never finished my degree. I was too busy. I had illustration clients. I had illustration jobs. Um, and so isn't that ironic? We live in a world now where degrees don't matter. It's especially in the art world. If you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer, sure, but not even a lawyer, because you can pass the bar without. What am I saying? But as an artist, you don't need the degree. Now, I'm not bagging on going through an art program, because there are a lot of people, most people that are successful in illustration that I know of went through that art program. There's a lot more to get than just the knowledge or just the art training. There's a lot of networking. I've talked about that before. Um, but I do find it ironic that the one guy that I hired was the one guy that dropped out of my class last year. And he's doing a great job. And he just, I can't say enough. And his name's Chris. Hi, Chris. Thanks a lot for all your hard work. Um, we hired a music guy. We hired one of the best music guys in the industry, David Housden. You can look him up. He did the music for Thomas Was Alone. I hope I'm not going to get in trouble for saying that, Dilmer. If I am, oops, I'm sorry. Um, but we just have I think we have a really good team. We've got my son working on in Unity, like I mentioned in the beginning, who is actually building levels and stuff, and we're working on this game. We have a pretty big opportunity, because there's only, I think there's about 50 or 60 games that you can actually buy on the Xbox One. Now this is July 2014, so if you're watching this later, of course it's changed by now. But there's actually a shortage of games on the Xbox, which is giving us an opportunity right now to get our game out there and get it noticed. And I can't tell you all the details, but Xbox is pretty friendly to indies right now, and that's not really a secret. Um, uh, David Charla, is that his name? Is it David, his first name? But the head of Xbox is really bending over backwards to help indie publishers like us because they say that indies are the future. The indies are the thing that's going to save Xbox. One of the problems with the AAA games is um, they spend millions and millions of dollars in R&D. They spend millions and millions of dollars in production, and sometimes the games flop and people lose their jobs. I mean, look what happened with the artist recently that worked on How to Train Your Dragon 2. The movie didn't sell well, and they laid off, I can't remember, 40 artists or something like that. And that happens all the time. That's always been happening. Um, Again, that's a reason to always be thinking about what is it that you want to do. When I say artists, rise up, wake up, and understand that you have the potential to create something that's beyond your wildest dreams right now. But that's probably because you're not allowing yourself to dream. There's no way that I could make this game on my own. I need the help of a team. I can't do the music. I can't do the animation. I can't do the programming. All I can do is the art direction, and that's how I'm functioning as an art director right now. Um, and the crazy thing is, when I work as an illustrator, I get shut down on a lot of my ideas. I'm going to go back to that point. I get shut down a lot of the things that I want to do. But when I work on this game, I am the art boss. The buck stops with me. I get to make all the art decisions. Um, I bounce ideas off the team. I really want them to love it. If they have something, if they have a concern, they'll voice it. But they're not in a position to say, you can't do this or you can't do that. It'll be more like, well, if we do that, it might be too complicated and it might take too much programming time. Do you really want us to do that? You know, and at that point I go, takes too much programming time. We've got to make our release date in January. Yeah, I'll do something else because I don't want to screw that up. We got to get this game out so we can start selling it and start making money. You've got to realize what the potential is out there. I am in no way saying that working in traditional channels like publishing, like children's publishing, comics, um, animation, any of those, I'm not saying at all that they're not valid. And some people can do very well. If you're at the top at some of those places, you can do extremely well. And so if you ask people that are in the top of publishing, what do you think? How are things going right now? They're going to be going great. And they probably give you the advice to go that direction. That is a direction that you can go in. But what I have seen in the past 5 to 10 years is those markets shrinking and also being infiltrated by people doing their own thing. Um, you know, Again, the word indie, indie games was not a thing because people couldn't make a game on their computer. People couldn't publish a book on their own. People couldn't make an app on their own. You can now. Now, I would say this. You've got to make sure you've got to do a lot of projects that fail. So be prepared for that. This is definitely not something that's going to happen overnight. This is a long-term goal. I've been working as an illustrator for 20 years, closer to 22 years. But it's not something that's going to happen overnight, but I think it should be your end goal. I think that there are a lot of illustrators that I know who were tooling along, working in whatever markets they were working in, and those markets dried up, and they never thought like this. They never thought, well, what else do I want to do? And a lot of those guys are scrambling. A lot of those guys have found other jobs. A lot of those guys aren't doing anything art related anymore because they didn't ever really think beyond being an illustrator for someone else. I can't remember the saying off the cuff. It's a good one, but it's basically something to the effect that if you're only working for someone else, you're really only helping them fulfill their dreams. You're not working on your own dream. Dare to dream for something more. You can do it. The options are there. The technology is there. It's totally possible. The question is, I guess, are you willing to spend the time? Are you willing to work at it? Are you willing to work at another job to make money to pay for that dream? I know I've said this before, but wealth is created in your spare time. And with that, I'm going to leave you with this. I've rambled on long enough. Hope you enjoyed this video. Friend me on Facebook. Find me. I'm always, I love getting questions. Sometimes they make it into these videos. And anyway, good luck out there. And I wish you all the best. Thanks.